Good evening. My name is Cassie Harris, and tonight I'm here to speak to you about purchasing firearms and having a 2-week waiting period in order to purchase those firearms, but still be able to exercise your Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms. In order to maintain gun control and as citizens of the United States and still exercise our rights to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, why not apply a 2-week waiting period before being able to purchase the actual firearm itself? There is no federal waiting period as of right now on the purchase of firearms. There are 10 states that do have waiting periods. Some of those states include California, which has a 10-day waiting period. Another state is Hawaii, which has a 14-day waiting period, and Rhode Island with a 7-day waiting period. Other states do require that you receive a license to carry a firearm, and they do background checks. However, a firearm in most states can be purchased within 3 days, even if no background check has been completed. That being said, it can take the FBI up to 25 days to reach the conclusion a firearm has been ineligibly purchased. So why have a waiting period? One important reason to have a waiting period is to give law enforcement the correct or a more thorough chance to do a background check on the person trying to obtain the firearms. That being said, if the person has a criminal background, they would not be allowed to purchase a firearm. Another big reason, and I think one of the most important reasons, is that it provides a cooling down time, meaning that to help guard against impulsive buyers for the firearm or for impulsive buyer of violence. Like, for example, say somebody is mad at somebody because they took their property and they want to go shoot up their house. This 2-week waiting period would guard them from being able to go impulsively buy a weapon. Another factor with the impulsive buyers is not just violence on others, but violence to self. For example, suicide. A person considering suicide can easily go purchase a firearm. The 2-week waiting period could give them the cool down time they need, or that might help them talk themselves out of what they were going to do. Approximately 50% of suicides in the U.S. are committed with a gun, and it's been said that compared to people that use different methods, other methods of suicide, to commit suicide, have a better chance of living than if they were going to use a firearm. Each year, over 3,000 ineligible people acquire firearms. This goes back to the background check and the FBI saying it takes them up to 25 days. If there was a 2-week waiting period and a more thorough background check, then this would lower the amount of people that have ineligibly obtained firearms. Looking at some of the statistics of a poll done in 2011 by the American people as to how they feel about a waiting period for the purchase of firearms. And most Americans did support the waiting period. A poll in December of 2011 found that 74% of people who have no firearms in the home support a 5-day waiting period for the purchase of firearms. That being said, 66% of members of the National Rifle Association who do own firearms state that a 5-day waiting period would be sufficient. And 50% of the NRA, the National Rifle Association, support this measure also. With all that being said, I think that it is a good idea to have a waiting period. It would lower crime, it would lower suicide rates, and it would lower people from having purchased weapons when they weren't supposed to be purchasing the weapons. Now, there's always going to be a way to purchase weapons, so it's not going to completely get rid of the violence. There's people that sell weapons. There's personal firearm owners that can sell without doing a background check at all. But at least this, with major companies that sell firearms, at least this would help lower the violence and the suicide rates and the purchase of ineligible weapon owning, and still allow people to be able to practice their right to bear arms, because they could still have their firearms as long as they don't have a criminal background, or, you know, they've waited that period before they're mad at somebody to go, you know, get mad and shoot up something because they're angry. So I think it's a good idea to have a two-week waiting period to be able to purchase firearms. I hope you all feel the same. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.